So I have traveled to over 80 countries, lived in 5+ countries, been a resident in 5+ countries, and I have seen a lot of biases in myself breaking, and I have seen myself evolve, I have seen myself change, I have seen myself letting go of a lot of things, and all that has led me into a mindset which I think is a very global mindset, a human mindset. And I have been looking for a way to transfer my mindset into other people. And I think it has been experiential learning, not a bookish learning. So I would like for this to be transferred as an experiential learning. Now, how do you sponsor 8 billion people on the planet to travel to 80 countries and live in 5 countries? It requires a lot of money. It requires a lot of courage. It requires a lot of things. So I was looking for a way, a method, which would make this happen, and at the same time, it wouldn't cost an arm and a leg. I have spent, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in traveling to these countries which I traveled to. I saved nothing. I spent everything which I was earning on travel, and I loved it. But it's an expensive hobby, or an expensive university degree, you can say. When we look at how education was invented in 1800s, late 1800s, they created this school system, right? And at that time, there are two theories, that they needed people to work in the industrial complexes, and the queen needed people to work under her. So to run the empire, there were people needed to run the empire. So the theory is that they created this kind of school which was needed to do a certain kind of job. But after the internet is invented, after Google is invented, after YouTube becomes one of the biggest universities on the planet, what kind of mindset is needed? What kind of humans are needed to grow Earth without killing itself? Today, humanity invests $2 trillion, which is 2,000 billion dollars every single year, on trying to protect ourselves from ourselves. Let me say that one more time. Every single year, humanity spends $2,000 billion on trying to protect ourselves from ourselves. And $50 billion a year is required to have nobody on the planet Earth live hungry or sleep hungry. 5% of that amount, no, 2.5% of that amount, which we spend on arms, if we spend on peace building, nobody's hungry. If we spend $100 billion in having conversation, parties for the presidents, parties for people to meet each other, parties for people to meet the enemies, Burning Man. In Sweden, they have this festival called Almedalen, which started a few years ago, and where everybody comes and talks to each other. Presidents, prime ministers, parliamentarians, businessmen. Why don't we have this festival where all the world leaders comes and have party? They don't have to talk about anything. I met this army general once from India, and he said, well, Rehan, bring 8 people from your Pakistan, 8 people from India I will bring, and we will just have a party for 4 days in the swimming pool and just talk and have no agenda. Make friends first. Everything starts from friendship. And before friendship, there is communication, there is interaction, there is communication, and that leads to friendship. So if humanity has to grow, if the humanity has to live another 100 years, or even 20 years for that matter, we need to stop wasting the $2,000 billion a year, which we waste on protecting ourselves from each other through arms, We need to invest that money in clean energy, in growing trees, in protecting this planet from finishing. Humanity is on the verge of collapse, as many people say. Yes, a few thousand or hundreds of thousands will not die, but the global warming, the AI threat, so many things we need to have fixed in order to live in the next century. As I said, 120 years ago, schooling system was created so that we can read and write. And at that time, nobody believed that everybody on earth can read and write. They thought only certain kinds of people can read and write. They believed that nobody can read. 500 years ago, nobody was allowed to touch the Bible. 500 years ago, you had to have a permission from the church to even see the Bible. You could only see it in certain days. 500 years ago, only certain people were allowed to write the Bible. Today, everybody has a Bible in their hotel room, in their phones, everywhere, right? So things have changed, but have our education system changed? Have we created systems which will allow us to have a global mindset? I don't see it happening. So my experiment has led me into creating a system which allows the mind to become a global citizen, which allows the mind to believe in himself or herself better. I come from a background where I did not believe, thought of myself as a third grade citizen just because I have a brown color, I speak with this accent, and I was born in Pakistan. I believed that. And there were facts, so-called facts, to support it. And to unlearn this belief that I am as good of a human being as the next person on any country in the world took me ages, and I'm very sure that I'm not 100% there, and I might never ever be, because there will always be someone who would be judging me in their own way, because they have never met anybody like me in their life. I was on a flight to Vienna, sitting next to a person from Slovakia who was in foreign ministry of some kind, and her partner was a police officer, and he said that he has never met a person from Pakistan in his life. And the other Pakistanis which they met were maybe taxi drivers, were they never met anybody like me. I'm the only one of my kind. How can we judge a human being for being from a certain country, for being a certain religion, from being a certain background? We should not judge, but we are taught to judge. We are taught that we are certain kind, and we are to a certain extent. Why? Because we learn 70% of who we are not from books, not from school, but from our friends and society. We turn on the television, the information goes in, and then we start to believe it. It goes again and again and again, and we believe it's the truth. And it's not wrong. We were not able to Google anything. We were not able to Wikipedia anything. We were not able to search for facts. Today, now, we are able to search for more data, which allows us to make better judgment. Now, which schooling system is teaching this to be a global citizen? Who is teaching this a human being to think for 8 billion human beings instead of his own tribe, instead of his own city, instead of his own country? We live on planet Earth, and in order to protect planet Earth, we need to become Earthlings. We need to change from an American, from a Pakistani, from an Indian, from an Israeli, from a Palestinian to a human being. And this journey is very tough because it's asking you to change your fundamental beliefs which you grow up with. It's very, very hard. Religion, nationalism, two of the hardest thing you could ever change. Try to think, would you like to change your name? You didn't have anything to do with your name. Your parents named you, or your grandparents named you, or somebody else named you, but you're not willing to let go of your name. It has become your identity. Similarly, our personalities have become our identity, and it's just very hard to change our identity. It's very, very, very difficult to change our identity into somebody else, or let go of our beliefs, right? Poor Newton almost was killed because he said, Earth revolves around the sun, and the sun revolves around the universe. And Bible said something else. Growing up in Pakistan, I wanted to find a way where people would become curious again. And I found that this is a global problem. We are all like a mummified in our beliefs. As we grow, as we are young, there's only 3 jobs, right? To eat, to poop, and to learn. We're not judgmental about anything. We don't know what is right and wrong. But this hard disk is filled with information, which then becomes our personality. And how to let go of that without leaving your desktop, without leaving your home, without leaving your city, your country. Coming from a country like Pakistan, where I was rejected for visas for 26 times, US visa 16 times, how could I engage with people of my country and help them evolve to a better person? I have belief that a poor person in Pakistan does not want to become a rich person. Majority of them have such a strong belief to their habits, to the way they are, that they're not able to let go, and that is what stops them from becoming richer, from having an easier life. Absolutely no reason for them not to become rich. Absolutely no reason. They have smartphones, they have internet access, they have electricity, and yet they make $100 a month. And that's unacceptable to me. That I have a fellow human being who can easily earn 10x that amount of money, but just because of his belief system, he or she is unable to earn more, to get better health for their children, to get better education for their children, to get better house for their children, to get better toilets for their children, family. They have to go to the forest still only once a day, in 2022. It's unacceptable to me, and I don't want to stop till it's fixed. And there's nothing to fix. Literally, there's nothing to fix except the mindset. Let go of the past and learn the new. And to my surprise, I went to a 5,000-year-old space in Pakistan from the time of Ashoka, and the inscriptions on the wall was, let go of your biases, let go of your culture, learn new things, and stop wasting your time in weddings and stuff like that. And I was shocked. It's like 5,000 years and still we're doing exactly the same which Ashoka was asking us to do, and we're not letting go of our biases and remaining poor just because, and there's no reason, right? And in today's day and age, with so much information, so much power in our pocket, in the form of the smartphone, the internet, the Google Assistant, the Siri, and we are not using it. Why are you not using it? And the answer which I found is that we learn 70% from our culture and our friends. So my 500 mutual friend experiment is a challenge to all those, a practical challenge. It's not a book. It's not a movie. It's an experiential learning. The only one I have known and I know of, which costs nothing, free for any human being to travel the world, unlearn what he knows or she knows, and change the belief system which he has or she has, which will change his mindset, which will open doors of prosperity, of happiness, of pleasure in their life. It's the first step to me. Like when you want to prepare the bread, you take the wheat, you put the water, and we call it, atta gundna. You make the dough. You have to prepare the dough. It's like going to school for a child. For me, anybody who goes out and adds friends from different parts of the world, it shows me that yes, I am ready. I am ready. I am going to change myself. And the first step is I will actually try to change myself. Most people think of Facebook as, what do you think as Facebook? Put it in the comment. What do you think? It's a tool which we use for, meeting our friends and families from school, from college, from university. Same bubble. The same exact bubble which taught us who we are. We're not willing to leave that bubble. So we're constantly getting the same feedback loop. And then we remain the same. We remain in the bubble of our country, of our religion, of our belief, of our work. Maybe we are a doctor. Oh, we are doctors. Oh, maybe we're an engineer. We're engineers. Whatever you are, you think you're the best. And the best way to break that is by meeting somebody who is better than you, who has done so much more from you. And you were like, oh my God, I look like a small little tiny ant in front of this giant elephant who has achieved so much, right? But it's not in a book. It's in front of you. He or she is writing about it. It's showing photos, making videos, and you can interact with them. You can comment on them. You can literally have a conversation with them. Was this all possible 15 years ago? No. So we need a new system to educate our children, to educate our elderly, to let go of the biases. And until and unless we let go of the biases, we will destroy ourselves as human beings. Because we no longer live in a country, we live on the internet. We live on the internet where the tools have changed, the language has changed, the way of working has changed, the way to grow has changed, the way to do business has changed, the way to communicate has changed. Everything has changed, and the school and the college and the university has failed to give us all that belief and the mindset in order to survive in this new world where you can have a call with a person anywhere on the planet for free. You can have a video call with anyone in the world, have a conversation, have a relationship over Facebook, over WhatsApp, over the internet. People are living their lives on their phones. Let me give you an example. I met a gentleman a few weeks ago. He's from India. He says, my 2 daughters sleep with me in my bed. They're young little kids. And I have a birthday, and they're lying next to me and they're texting me, Papa, happy birthday. And I'm looking at them like, I'm looking at my phone and I'm looking at them, and they're sending me message, Papa, happy birthday. And they're right there in the bed next to them. Why didn't they say it on the face? Because the way they communicate is different than the way we communicated to our parents. It's just different. It's not bad or good. It's different. It's a new medium, a new tool of communication. Or posting it on Facebook. Majority of the people of my country, where I come from, wish other people now happy birthday, which was never true a few years ago. Now everybody's wishing everybody on Facebook. But when they meet each other, they don't. They don't say anything. The communication system is broken. They're unable to communicate to each other. They're like scared of the other person for some reason. Because what the reason is, nobody does it. And we, as a human, as a sheep mind, we follow the tribe. We follow the majority. We don't follow the minority. And in order for my work to actually be usable, it has to become scalable. And I don't want it to be a book which is sitting in a library of Congress somewhere, where some guy is doing a research on it, but nobody really knows about it. What has been achieved? This project, this experiment, has been a phenomenal tool for, in my opinion, for breaking through a mindset of a human being. We can prepare global mindsets using this process which I have created. I wouldn't say created, which I have bumped into it accidentally and found it to be a phenomenal tool for creating a new kind of mindset. I'm constantly tweaking it. I'm constantly evolving the whole procedure, and I keep fiddling with it. But my biggest hindrance is that people don't understand it, and it's really hard to explain, because I don't know how to explain it to anyone who has not really watched or heard me for an hour. If they want to really understand it, they want me to give them a trailer and then expect that they have watched the movie. It doesn't work that way, does it? You can't live your life and just live on the trailer. You want to live your life. And this whole journey, it's a journey. It's like a life journey, which I have been able to make it where it's just faster for people to unlearn themselves and evolve themselves. It kind of forces them into a new version of themselves. And this is the biggest skill they can have to achieve anything. There's a author, his name is David Hawkins, and he has written a book called Power versus Force. And his major work is contributed to creating a chart of consciousness. Just like we have IQ, we have EQ measured, so we can increase our EQ, increase our IQ, because we can measure it. If you can't measure something, you can't really do it. So David Hawkins really measured the consciousness level of humanity, of human beings. And he believes that unless we cross, he charts it from 0 to 1,000, and he believes that unless we cross 200, we are not really even human beings yet. We are not really doing anything we want to do yet. So this process, which I've created, allows you to raise your consciousness. And when you raise your consciousness enough, doors of heavens open to you. You raise your consciousness, and you raise automatically your spirituality. And when you are spiritual, there are more dimensions than we know of. We are living in a 3-dimensional world. I believe there are more dimensions in the world things we don't understand really yet. And once we start raising our consciousness, the spiritual realms start to open for us. And my mission in life is to end world poverty. And I don't think we can end world poverty unless and until we raise the consciousness level of human beings. The poverty is there in their mind, not in the physical world. They can have $1 billion in their bank account and still be poor. And they can have $1 in their pocket and then they can still be rich. You know this. We all know this. But how do we achieve that mindset? How do we really measure that mindset? So I was looking for this method for the last 3 years, and I finally found David Hawkins' work. And it's really hard to understand initially, but I think I understand a little bit of it. And the worst kind of human being is one in shame, which is the score at 20. The second worst is the person who is angry, and then so on and so forth. So all the big teachers of the world, Jesus, Moses, Muhammad, Prophet, peace be upon him, Buddha, all of them were asking us to let go of certain things within us. Don't speak the lie, speak the truth, be honest, don't do wrong things. When you do those things which were taught to us by all the big teachers, your spirituality, your your consciousness score starts to become higher. And by starting to communicate, why do we have shame? We have shame because we were taught to be shameful about ourselves. I was taught to be ashamed of being a third world country citizen. Not on purpose. My parents did not teach me this. My school did not teach me this. No school or parents go and teach, go and start smoking, start lying. No, there's no school in the world who teaches that. There's no parent in the world who teaches that. But we still learn to lie. We still learn to, do interesting, weird things, including smoking. Where do we learn this? We learn it from our peers, by watching, by seeing. And if you're doing all this, we become a certain way. So I was ashamed of being a person of brown color. I was ashamed of being a Pakistani. I was ashamed of being Rehan. And I had to unlearn all that. How did I unlearn all this? I unlearned it by having conversations. One of my best helper for doing this was my friend Suzanne Bowen. And by having a conversation with her, she raised my consciousness because she asked me questions. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? She was always asking me questions, And as a teacher, and what she was an English teacher, but for me, she was a life teacher, a coach, and she helped me start feeling better about myself, started to believe in myself. And I found this is common in strangers. Our own don't do this for us. Our own, unfortunately, are unable to do this for us. There is a quotation in the African quote called, "It takes a village to raise a child." Unfortunately, parents cannot do certain things. Certain things need to be done for a child by an uncle, an auntie, a grandfather, grandmother, a stranger. And that is what travel does to us. We meet strangers who we meet for a day or 2 days. We're not judgmental about them. They're not judgmental about us. We have to rewrite our story. We tell them our story, and they judge us or give us, actually it's called feedback loop. They give us a feedback loop, and we meet another stranger, and then we meet another stranger, and we purify our story every time we meet someone new. We repeat, and suddenly we are rewriting our own story. We are authoring our own story. We are refining our own self. Because our own family never asks us anything which is about us. Majority of them are not concerned. They're talking about the news, the politics, the sports. Majority of them don't say, well, who are you? So we don't ever discover ourselves. The best way I have found to discover yourself is to meet strangers, because you have to go and introduce yourself to them. Hi, my name is Rehan, and this is what I do. What do you do? And I found interesting that 99% of the planet does not know how to introduce themselves. They either go so big of an introduction, or they say, hi, my name is Rehan. Hello, that doesn't tell me anything. My name is John. Hello, John, nice to meet you. What do you do, John? John should say, hi, my name is John. I run a sports business in a sports shop. Or I run an online sports website. My name is John. Very nice to meet you. That gives you some reference, some follow-up question with more information, because we live in an age where nobody has time anymore, where we don't have enough time to do all this. But we still want to do this. We want to make strangers. We want to meet new people. Some of them don't, but most of people do, and that's how you learn. And this is the best way to discover yourself. This is the best way to become yourself, because my experiment said, go out there, introduce yourself to 500 human beings who are totally different than you are. They should not be from your own country. They should not be anybody you know. Don't plan and make them your friend. Just go up to the street and say, hello, how are you? If you have the courage to do that, do it. Try it at home. Go to the bus station, go to the mall, coffee shop, meet a stranger, hello. No reference whatsoever. You will be surprised how pleasant it is to have a new friend or have a conversation with a person who is totally random in your life. He or she will change the way you think about yourself. And that is the journey. It's not the external journey, it's the internal journey, but this person is helping you on the way to become yourself. Eventually, you will stick to the story which you found about yourself to be most sticky. Most people will like that story. It will be of value to other people. You will be able to make money from that story, and it'll be good for the universe. And that's what the Japanese call the ikigai. But they don't show you how to find your ikigai. But this is what your ikigai is, and this method shows you how to find your ikigai, how to find yourself. This, I don't know of any other method to find yourself better than this one. If there is one, I would love to, be the best marketing person for that. But I don't know any other way to discover yourself by having these random communication, conversations. And that will eventually create you. It's a phenomenal way. It brings you joy. It brings you the skill of communication. It brings you the balance of communication. It brings you opens doors in terms of new friendships. You can be the best person in the world. Go to 10 people. 2 will hate you. 4 will not dislike you. 4 will be like, pleased to meet you, but never get in touch with you. But one person will love you for who you are. I mean, you can change that from 5% to 1% to 10%, whatever you think. But that's how the world works. It depends on which random people you end up meeting. I think the life we live is kind of pre-written, and we're just playing our play, but we don't even know what we're supposed to do. But we do meet the right people, no matter how bad we think we are for them or they are for us. They're there to teach us something interesting. But if you don't go out and explore these magic cookies, like when you go to a Chinese restaurant, they give you these cookies, and inside there's a small little random paper, and it's supposed to tell you your fortune. To me, all these new friends are like a fortune cookie. They will give you one liner, one small little tip to become a better person. And they're actually designed for you. They're there to meet you. They're waiting for you. They're there for you. If you don't meet them, I think, I don't know, majority will not discover themselves. And it's true. In a planet with 8 billion people, how many people are actually enlightened and following their heart, following their passion, following their ikigai? How many do you think are doing that? In a planet where we have the power to impact billion people each, how many of us are even ambitious enough to reach out to 1 billion people, to reach out to 1 million people and tell your story? Majority are not today, but I am hopeful that just like education 120 years ago was not for everyone, video making and having friends on the global scale is not for everyone today, but eventually it'll become. And I'm very hopeful, and I can feel it right there. It's about to ripe, and it's about to fall the fruit. of the work which Facebook has done, Google has done. Thank you, Zuckerberg, and all the other people. Vint Cerf, who invented the internet, and other people who I have not named, for what they have achieved and done for the planet is just awesome. And the last 6-7 years, I've been praying that we could just go on for 20 more years without any major war in the world. With just this phenomenal technology growing and coming into our hands, we will discover things using this phenomenal mobile phone and the internet and Google and YouTube and Facebook. We will change ourselves as humanity. We will become a new version of humanity. It's right there. But we need more empathy in it. We need more understanding in it, so that we don't destroy ourselves before we achieve that new version of ourselves. If we don't communicate, if we don't make friends, and if we don't stop wasting that $2 trillion a year, every year, on arms which are supposed to defend ourselves from our friends, then it's sad that with all the superpowers which humanity now has, we're not using it. Watch a 50-year-old movie of James Bond and see the powers which he has. And now, majority of those powers are in your pocket, in your phone. You can do almost everything imaginable from your phone. These things which we couldn't imagine are able to be done from your phone. We have a broadcasting station, we have a television channel, we have our radio station, we have our school, college, university, relationship, our light meter, our home manager, our assistant, our whole communication device. I mean, what's Star Trek 50 years ago? And I think we do more than Star Trek now already from our phone. It's the most amazing time humanity has ever seen, and it's constantly growing. And I want you to be part of this journey. I want you to think on how you can repurpose this $2 trillion being wasted on arms for other things in life, for making a humanity which is much better. I envision a freeway, a highway around the globe, where we can just sit in the car, go through Africa, go through the US, go through Europe, everywhere, right? I mean, a peace highway. Whenever I travel and I see the roads being bad, it's difficult to travel, make it easier. Watch content of Jack Fresco. Let's build those tunnels like Hyperloop is making. We can sit here and go somewhere in a jiffy. Or I recently found out that finally Scotty Beam Me Up is happening in China. People have been able to transport smaller items from point A to point B. Really amazing stuff is happening. So I'm not disappointed in humanity as per se. I am very hopeful, but I'm very sad at the same time, because as a doctor, if you see someone in front of you in pain for no reason, and you can give them a small little aspirin and they can fix their headache or the pain they're suffering, and they're not taking, they're like, I'm not going to take your aspirin, dude. It's evil, it's bad. And you're a doctor and you're like, just eat it, it's nothing, and it's free. They're like, no, I'm not going to take your aspirin. So it hurts me. As a person who has seen things, it makes me sad. It makes me happier when I see people flying, but as the saying goes, birds which are born in a cage think that outside is a prison. People who are born in the prison of misinformation, people who are born in an age where they were not able to do all this amazing things are still keeping us from moving forward. And I invite everyone, especially the elderly people, because the younger ones can take care of themselves. I think they're very, very well equipped with the technology and globalization. But the elder ones who are actually making the policies for humanity, who are spending these trillions of dollars on arms, they don't understand the world yet the way they should, the way it is. I have a friend in Budapest I met, and he was a very interesting guy, and he was kind of a futurist, I would guess. And he said, I just met him randomly, and he said, Rehan, I see 20 years from now my son having a girlfriend in Australia, and he would go from Budapest in a 2-hour flight to Australia to be with his girlfriend for 3 days a week, and he would come back in Budapest and do his job or something like that. And it inspired me that he was able to think that way, that 20 years from now the transportation, the visas, the borders, the world will look looking in a very different way.